Good afternoon. I was going to be saying good morning, but it kind of drug on for a while. Thanks all for your patience with our schedule, and thanks to staff for the last minute crunch and getting everything together for this session and dealing with technical issues. So, our somewhat revised plan here is to work through all of our remaining business straight through, and then we will take a break for lunch, and the commission will return to finalize the meeting report. Um, so with that, we're going to go to Dr. Hicks for revisiting a couple of issues associated with the management strategy evaluation work plan.
Okay, good afternoon, commissioners. Thank you for reminding me it's afternoon. Just a couple of final little things with the management strategy evaluation work plan that I wanted to point out. And after some discussions this week, we have highlighted some high priority topics for the MSE work plan. And that includes updating a few things after the full stock assessment in accordance with the Harvest Strategy Policy Schedule. That's defined in there, evaluating a range of fishing intensities or SPR values to determine what's optimal given any updates to the framework, investigating productivity regimes and how that affects the management of Pacific halibut. I think that's important. And further developing the depleted concept, which I discussed on Monday, which was discussed in the other subsidiary bodies this week as well. So those are high priority topics, things that we're planning to get done in 2026 and bring back to the 103rd annual meeting next year. There are some lower priority topics which won't necessarily be completed in 2026, but is useful to get started on. And this includes improving the estimation model that the SRB has made a suggestion for, and evaluating any additional management procedure elements, control rules, and anything that the MSAB has identified in the past. And then with the new framework and the update to the MSE operating model, it would be useful to reevaluate reference points, which has been done in 2019, and then develop some guidance documents to support the harvest strategy policy. Those are not high priority items, but things that we should be working on. And you may notice in this program of work, there is not any mention of distribution of the TCY, and that's because I wanted to remind the commission that in the harvest strategy policy, distribution of the TCY is described as part of the decision-making process and not as part of the management procedure. So that's why it's not appearing in the program of work, at least at this time. And then any of these results can be used to update the harvest strategy policy in the future as is necessary. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Hicks. I think that reflects our discussions following up on your presentation earlier in the week. Commissioners, any questions or discussion around this? Not seeing any. Thanks very much. Okay, that brings us to regulatory proposals. Dr. Hutchesek.
Thank you, Chair. Moving to the agenda item where we revisit regulatory proposals. As described on Monday, we have 8 regulatory proposals for the decision by the Commission this year. As proposals have already been discussed, I'll be just going quickly through the introduction and we'll move to the decision by the Commission. I will start with the framework proposal. So the Commission has for the decision 3 framework proposals. Proposal A1 that introduces a framework for mortality and fishery limits in the IPHC fishery regulations. Proposal A2, which is a framework for introducing commercial fishing periods in the IPHC fishery regulations, so the commercial fishing period opening and closing. And framework B in proposal B1, which is framework for charter management measures in IPHC regulatory areas 2C and 3A. That depends on where the final charter management measures depend on the decision on mortality and fishery limits. And over to you, Chair, on the decision for the framework proposals.
Okay, thank you very much. So this is just the frameworks. We'll fill in the details based on our subsequent actions. And well, is there any objection to adopting these frameworks? Not seeing any.
Thank you. Moving to Proposal B1. Proposal B1 is a proposal on daily bag limit in IPHC Regulator Area 2B. This proposal is a flexibility of moving to free fish limit in Canada. And I already introduced this proposal, so over to you, Chair, in terms of that decision.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion on B2? Commissioner Davis.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt this proposal for a one-year period and that the commission will review the proposal after that year for any further years of implementation.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Yamada seconds. Any discussion? Any objection? Okay, that is adopted.
Great, thank you. So on the next slide, in anticipation of that, we have a regulatory language that would reflect the motion. So this is the regulatory language as provided in the proposal with that additional sentence that introduces that 1 year revision. So the provision will remain in effect for 2026, so for the upcoming fishing season, and it will be in place unless through 2026 unless extended by a vote of the Commission. Moving to Proposal B3, this is proposal for season opening dates for recreational fisheries sub-areas within the IPHC Regulatory Area 2A. The details were provided on Monday, and I'm happy to provide any additional comments on that, but over to you, Chair, if you would like to take an action on this proposal.
Okay, thank you. So on B3, the opening dates for recreational fisheries in 2A, do we have a motion? Commissioner Alverson?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we adopt these regulations. They come from the Pacific Fishery Management Council and had extensive public comment at that point.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner DeGreef is having a little trouble with his microphone, but it looks like there's a second. Okay, thank you. Any discussion?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any objection? Okay, that motion passes.
Thank you. And for this, we have also, just for the record, the regulatory language that will be introduced in the regulations as a result of passing this regulatory proposal. Moving to stakeholders' proposal, I group them by category. So I have proposals C1 and C3 grouped together, and these relate to recreational sport fishing in Alaska. So regulatory areas from 2C to 4E. These are pretty similar in terms of the content, and I give it the floor to you, Chair, for a discussion on these two proposals.
Okay, commissioners, what are the desires for C1 and C3? Commissioner Alverson?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that proposals C1 and C3 be forwarded to the North Pacific Fishery Management Council with the following explanation to them. The commission requests that the Secretariat send a letter to the North Pacific Fishery Management Council transmitting copies of regulatory proposals C1 and C3 for the Council's awareness and consideration. The letter should inform the Council that the expansion of the unguided recreational harvest in Alaska prompted considerable feedback from the IPHC stakeholders. In 2025, the final unguided harvest and removal estimates in 2C was 1,445,000,000 pounds compared to the preliminary removal estimate of 0.992 million pounds. And the increase is understood to be driven by the growing interest by anglers fishing from unguided rental boats. This poses both management and allocative concerns, particularly in light of the current low abundance of the halibut resource. Given the Council's important role in these matters, the Council may want to visit or to consider measures to improve management and catch data collection for the unguided recreational sector of the Pacific halibut fishery.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Alverson. Do we have a second? Commissioner Davis?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any additional discussion beyond that Rationale from Commissioner Alverson. Any objection? Okay, seeing none, that passes.
Thank you, Chair. Moving to proposal C2, this proposal is related to limited retention outside the commercial fishing period in IPHC Regulatory Area 2B. And over to you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any action on C2?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd like to uh, make a motion to adopt Proposition C2 for a 1-year period and have DFO and the IPHC work out details. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner DeGreef. Is there a second?
Yes, I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Yamada. Any objection? Okay, that is adopted.
Great, thank you. So just to confirm, I will just note that my understanding is that the commission agrees with this proposal in principle, and the intent is for the regulatory language for the proposal C2 to be developed between IPHC Secretariat and Fisheries and Oceans Canada. And this specific regulatory language would be finalized for implementation and enforcement together as we review the other regulatory changes in IPHC fisheries regulations for 2026. And the only change in the intent of the original proposal is that this would be introduced initially for 1 year.
That's correct. Thanks for that clarification.
Thank you very much. I will work as a part of the review of the regulations to make sure that this is implemented for the upcoming winter. And Chair, it's up to you whether you would like me to go through the other regulatory changes or you would like to take it.
Yeah, we can go ahead and do A2.
Okay. So proposal A2, that was the commercial fishing periods, and this is where the commission makes the decision on the opening and closing of the commercial fishing period.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion, Commissioner Alverson.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the opening date be March 26th and the closing date be December 7th.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Commissioner DeGreef.
I would just note, Mr. Chairman, that both the conference board and the PAB have supported, for a variety of reasons, March 26th, and December 7th has been a longstanding closing date.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? Any objection? Okay, that motion passes.
Great, thank you. Moving to proposal A1, the actual mortality and fishery limits. So this in here, the commission makes the decision on mortality limits by IPHC regulatory area. And over to you, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let's start with a motion from Canada for Area 2B. Commissioner Davis.
I'd like to make a motion for a TCEY in 2B for 2026 of 5.06 million pounds.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Yes, I second.
Commissioner Yamada, thank you. Commissioner Davis, do you want to speak to your motion?
Sure, thank you. Maybe just a couple comments here. We, as everyone in this room knows, have occasionally encountered differences in how we should share the resource and differences in views about the extent to which we need to make changes in the way we manage from year to year. In almost every year of this commission's history, we have managed to overcome those differences and reach agreements. This year was particularly challenging in that regard. Canada believed that some precaution was prudent this year and proposed some reductions coast-wide. We're proposing this reduction in 2B in response to our concerns about the stock and the concerns that have been raised between our two countries about how we share the resource. And while this was an exceptionally difficult step for us to take, it reflects the commitment that Canada has to an IPHC process that works and where our interests and our priorities are respected in the way we work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Any other discussion on that? Commissioner DeGreef.
Yeah, I came to these meetings to discuss the challenges of our fishery. After some challenging discussions where livelihoods were threatened, I did what I felt was best for the Canadian stakeholders and the halibut resource. We're taking a cut in Canada, knowing that the halibut stock in Canada will ultimately reap the benefits and the rewards. I wish that other areas would have done the same. I know these cuts will better protect the resource going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner DeGreef. Any other comments? Any objection on that motion? Okay, that motion passes. That brings us to a motion for the U.S. coastwide areas. Commissioner Alverson.
Mr. Chairman, I am going to read from and make a motion from the minutes of the PAB on the U.S. areas. For Area 2A, I'd move a harvest limit of 1.65 million pounds. For 2C, 5.22 million pounds. 3A, 9.08 million pounds. 3B, 2.86 million pounds. 4A, 1.34 million pounds. 4B, 1.08 million pounds. And 4C, D, and E, 3.08 million pounds. Did I get 4B wrong?
1.04.
1.04, correction.
Thank you, Commissioner Alverson. Do we have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Davis. Thank you. So I will speak to that briefly for starters, to the U.S. Commissioner's position on appropriate TCUIs for the U.S. areas. So all of the commissioners remain concerned about the status of the Pacific halibut stock, which remains in a low productivity regime that began in 2006. The 2025 assessment results indicate a similar stock trend as estimated in 2024, with the coastwide 032 weight per unit effort essentially flat, but there were important differences among biological regions and IPHC regulatory areas, with Region 2 weight per unit effort for all sizes down 13% and all other regions slightly positive. Both the FIS and fishery performance indices remain at historically low levels, with the stock at a low productivity level due to low average weight at age and recruitment. All of that is cause for some caution, but the overwhelming feedback we heard from stakeholders was that in light of the substantial cuts the Commission has made the previous 3 years, additional cuts of perhaps 5 to 10% are unlikely to make a meaningful change in the stock trajectory and thus seem not to be worth the substantial pain that halibut users would incur. The U.S. commissioners were persuaded by that argument. In 2023, the Commission cut TCUI by 10.3% coastwide, in 2024 by 4.6% coastwide, and in 2025 by 15.76% coastwide, for an overall reduction during those 3 years of almost 28%, from 41.22 million pounds in 2022 to 29.72 million pounds in 2025. Those are considerable reductions and quite precautionary, with the overall aim of increasing the probability of an improved stock status and trend. I won't speak to all of the U.S. areas individually, but for Area 2A, I'll note that the TCUI of 1.65 million pounds is important for the catch sharing plan to work and to ensure that the U.S. fulfills its trust responsibility to West Coast tribes that rely on halibut. Thus, for U.S. areas, the U.S. commissioners and head of delegation did not support any reductions this year and decided to stick with the status quo TCUIs. Any other comments on this motion? Okay, is there any objection to this motion? Seeing no objection, that motion passes.
Thank you, Chair. As a follow-up from the mortality limits decision, I would just like to display the detailed 2026 projections by sectors based on mortality limits adopted and domestic catch sharing arrangements. So this is a table where the sector allocations will be brought into the IPHC regulations table with fishery limits to make sure that all the limits by sector are really clear within the regulations. I can leave it for a second if anybody wants
Let
to
everyone get their
look.
pictures.
I can see phones out
Yeah.
of the pocket, so just a second. And as a result of the mortality limits decision and resulting fishery limits, we also have the resulting charter management measures for IPHC regulatory areas 2C and 3A. So for IPHC regulatory area 2C, this is the regulatory language that will be introduced as a result of this decision. So in 2C, the management measures would be a reverse slot limit of 34 inches and between 34 inches and 80 inches, or 86.4 centimeters and 203.2 centimeters. And the fishery will be closed on the following Thursdays in 2026, 18th of June through 10th of September. In terms of management measures, charter management measures in IPHC regulatory area 3A, this is also a result of the mortality and fishery limits decision. And for 3A, at least one of the retained Pacific halibut must have a head-on length of no more than 27 inches or 68.6 centimeters. And the retention, no retention will be allowed on Wednesdays as well as on following Tuesdays in 2026, 2nd of June through 25th of August. And based on the charter management measures, there will be also change in that earlier paragraph there. And this concludes the regulatory proposals session. This is just a reminder about the process. Now that all the decisions are made, the IPHC Secretariat will develop the finalized language of the IPHC fisheries regulations. This language will be forwarded to policy advisors from both contracting parties for review. And as we have the finalized and reviewed language, this will be forwarded to both contracting parties for implementation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hutchesack, for walking us through all of that. That's a lot. I think this brings us to the IPHC meeting calendar. Dr. Wilson.
Thank you very much, Chair. And so paper 16, we're not going to bring it up on screen, but it does have the full meeting calendar. And there are 3 meetings that need to be finalized. The first and most important being the 103rd session of the IPHC annual meeting, which is currently slated to be held from the 25th to the 28th of January next year. And I'll pause there, Chair.
Thanks, Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, just to quickly mention that we look forward to hosting this meeting in Victoria next year and to the next round of our discussions at the 103rd annual meeting. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And through the chair, there are 2 meetings that don't have dates in the calendar at the moment. They are the MSAB 022, and I'm being advised that that's going to be held from the 12th to the 14th of May online. And then similarly, the Research Advisory Board, the 27th session, is going to be held from the 17th to the 18th of November, and that's in Seattle. And that's all I have for the meeting calendars, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wilson. All right, next is election of a new chair and vice chair for next year. So looking for a motion for chair.
I'd like to make a motion that Mark Waddell serve as chair for the coming year.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Yamada. Any objection? Mark is not here to object, but I'm sure he won't object. Very good. And we need a motion for a vice chair.
I would move that John Curlin serve as vice chair.
Is there a second? I will not object. Is there any objection to that motion? Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. I think that brings us to our closing. Let's say a few words here. First, it's been a pleasure for the United States to host this year's meeting, and thank you all for traveling here and listening in online. I'd like to express my appreciation to my fellow commissioners, to the U.S. head of delegation, who I think has already stepped out, to our executive director, secretariat staff, and advisors for everyone's help. It takes a lot of hands to run a meeting like this. Thanks, of course, for everyone's input into our decisions this week. It's really easy to get passionate about a resource that is so important to so many people. And what I appreciate most about IPHC is the mutual respect and collegiality that participants show in this process, even when we may have strong disagreements. I know that comes from all of us wanting to keep the resource healthy and to see it recover from the current low abundance and to sustain its benefits for users in Canada and in the United States well into the future. So thanks everyone for that. And Neil, I'll turn to you.
Thank you, and not too much to add. I'd also like to thank our American Commissioner counterparts. I think most of us have been together now for a number of years, so I appreciate your collaboration with us, even through some very difficult conversations. I do want to thank Dr. Wilson and the IPHC Secretariat. As always, very highly professional group, very quick to respond to our needs throughout the week. And I think another very well-run annual meeting. So really appreciate all of the hard work and the professionalism that you and your staff bring to these meetings. Wanted to thank the conference board and processor advisory board members as well. All of you take time out of your schedules to be here. Many of you have spent your own money to be here. And I don't think it's lost on any of us as commissioners about how important the decisions and discussions we have each year are to each of you. And maybe a particular note for the chairs and vice chairs of those bodies who spend extra time to herd you cats and make those reports come together with the help of staff. So appreciate that. And I guess lastly, really appreciate the comments from Commissioner Kurland about the importance of a respectful relationship. I think that really is the foundation of what makes this process work. And I think it will remain so. So the extent to which we can preserve that as a principle upon which we interact with one another, I think will have a lot to do with the success we achieve looking forward. Thank you.
Well said, Commissioner Davis. Thank you. All right, I think that brings us to the end. Anyone who wants to stick around to hear the nitty-gritty on finalizing our report is welcome to do so after lunch. Nothing else, we're adjourned. Thank you.